Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to show you how I paint opacity and a little bit of flow. I don't use that much flow, but I think it's kind of relevant. If you use the full range of opacity and have a flow at 100 or maybe 90 or anything on flow above 50, you'll be okay. So the opacity, it pretty much control how much paint you can get on your canvas. Or if you have 100% opacity, you can get a full range of your color and values. And usually I will have my transfer on here. If you don't have a transfer on, you can't really get gradient. So I have 100 opacity, 100% nowadays usually when I paint. So I can go and on the setting of your Wacom sensitivity, you can be super sensitive or less sensitive. On mine, I don't have to press hard and it will go really dark. But on some people, they like to press hard so it can go super light and then gradient and then dark. So you can go all the way from 10% to really light and then go to really dark. Just set the background to 0. And that would be like super light from 94 to about 100. So, but if I change my opacity to 50%, then I cannot achieve that level of darkness anymore. I would get achieved like 50%. If I press all the way harder, it would only be 50%. But if I press really hard, lift my Wacom, I go over it again, I can achieve the darker value. And this is kind of like building up or overlapping. And I think a lot of you have a problem with overlapping because you paint it somewhat over and over with the lower opacity. So one way to resolve that is to use 100% opacity and paint with really thick paint, and then you won't have that overlapping effect. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my opacity to 100%. Flow, as long as you have flow above 50, which I never change flow that much, I have them always high, you can get still pretty dark. But I think the pixel will be more like inconsistent in comparison to that. So it's the amount of pixel that's spread out. The problem will come if you have like flow lower than 50, then even if how hard you press, you get really dark, but the lines are separating so much that it looks like it's grayed out. So I think that's what flow does. And I think flow has more effect on the airbrush, which I never use. Like how it's probably helped you with soft edge or something. So usually I have flow at 100%. If you don't like the gradient, turn the transfer off. Then when you paint, it would just be how light ever I paint, it would just be that solid color on 100% opacity. And you can also turn off shade dynamic, which you wouldn't be able to taper it at all. Okay, so I hope that make it clear on the opacity. Now I'm just going to show you the application. If I don't know the value, what value or how strong of a shadow or how light of a light I should put in there, I would use a low opacity to find that, and then I will, once I find that value, I use 100%. Say if I have like the overlapping here, right, and I want this area to be that color, I'm gonna use 100% to just get that color down. So that's how you have a really clean color. So I'm just gonna play around with this. Then I use 100% opacity. If you use 100% opacity, then you get all even tone basically. Usually I separate my layer between, I have two. So her hair is bleached, kind of bleach blonde. Then I'll pick the hair color on the different layer here. When I pick the base, I will use a high opacity. You can start drawing a line first, but I'm just using the shape. Basically, in my head, I saw the line. Now I am going to slowly add shadow. What I'm going to do shadow, I'm going to use usually I either do multiply. I'm going to pick the color of the background, move about 50%. Like if I know what I want, definitely I will choose 100% opacity over anything else. Or I'm not sure about the color and value, then I'm just gonna use low opacity instead. Because painting is pretty logical, and it would really help if you plan ahead of, well, you have to kind of know your process, right? So if you know your process, then you can plan ahead. If you haven't got your process down, then get your process down and then plan ahead. And add some red onto the nose a little bit. 50% using multiply, giving it some reddish color. I'm just gonna add eyebrow. Darker value here again, and darker value here again. Like here, I'm just gonna pick a darker value here. For the eyes, I'm just gonna make another layer and call it lash, because I like to separate the eyelash. Because if I make a mistake, I can just take it out and add the eyeballs and everything else later. So if you want a clean color, then use 100% opacity. And don't overlap when you paint, so you get that build up. Just try to do like one stroke and don't lift up and use eraser to erase them. All right, well, that's about it. Have a good day.